Here's the issue of vandalism, theft, illegal connections and sabotage are taking a toll on the national capacity to supply electricity. Lately, criminals have taken to attacking personnel and infrastructure. Just last week, there were 3 separate attacks in Johannesburg. What exactly is being done to avoid these incidents? How do employees feel safe knowing threats against their lives are imminent? Let's go to eNCA reporter Manqoba Mchunu, who's following developments in the city of Johannesburg. Manqoba, we understand that there have been several attacks on city power infrastructure as well as security personnel here in Johannesburg. What do we know so far about the attacks and who is behind them?
Well, Masiko, what we do know so far, and this is from a statement from the mayor's office, is that there have been 3 attacks targeting city power security personnel in the past week alone. And these attacks were carried out by heavily armed criminals. The first of them happened at Cydna substation north of Johannesburg on Wednesday last week, where we are told security personnel were attacked by a group of armed men who, at the time we understand, were carrying high caliber rifles. They were both made to lie down on the floor as the gang, we understand, ransacked the substation and stole several hundred kilograms of underground cabling. And the second one, we are told, Masiko, happened on Thursday night in Carr Street in Newtown. You recall that this was the scene of that underground fire in the Johannesburg CBD last week that left many parts of the city in darkness. We understand that 2 city power security officers were gunned down and robbed of their firearms after trying to transport burnt copper to a nearby depot. And according to the statement, the third incident happened on Friday night in Carr Sands, which is north of the city, where we also understand that there was an exchange of gunfire between city power officers as well as the attackers. And from that incident, we are told that 1 security officer was shot in the head. He is currently in a critical condition in ICU at a hospital. But at this stage, Masiko, what the city is saying is that these incidents have been carried out by armed criminals, and it does appear that somehow there are deliberate plans to sabotage the infrastructure. They say that they have been in contact with some of the other regions in the country where they've also reported similar incidents.
Manqoba, I have to ask you this. I mean, if you look at what happened in the city of Johannesburg over the weekend, particularly in the CBD and underground cables being stolen, etc., this seems to me like an inside job. Someone within city power, whether a service provider or someone who works for city power, knowing exactly where to go. You and I wouldn't know where to go to steal cables underground.
Indeed, Masiko, and that's what the city is saying, that it does appear that it is a deliberate act of sabotage. And in fact, it reminds me of a story that I just did a few weeks ago in the city of Tshwane, where we saw also the issue of power cuts affecting several parts of Tshwane. And at the time, when we spoke to the city of Tshwane, they told us, Masiko, that in fact it was an act of sabotage. There were, at the time, we understand there was a strike by some of the workers in that municipality. And so when we spoke to the city, they made it quite clear that, you know, for one to know where these cables are, it's only workers or people from inside the city that would know exactly where to locate these cables. So it does appear at this point that it is an inside job and apparently, as the city says, Masiko, an act of sabotage. But what we do understand is that the mayor's office will be mobilizing resources to safeguard these affected areas. And according to the statement, she has also instructed the city forensic and investigation unit to assemble a team which will work together with law enforcement agencies, including the Johannesburg Metro Police, to investigate these attacks. We also understand that the various stakeholders from the city will be meeting to try and find a way forward. But the city is saying, Masiko, that they cannot do this alone. They have appealed to President Cyril Ramaphosa, the National Prosecuting Authority, as well as the Gauteng Police Commissioner here, Lieutenant Elias Mawela, to avail resources to them to actually investigate and prosecute these cases. And they are saying, of course, that they believe that this is sabotage.
It seems like a lucrative business for those inside, but it also means the taxpayer and the city itself loses money. Manqoba Mchunu in the city of Johannesburg, thank you. Let's leave it there for now.